What if you could turn your passion for helping others into a career that changes lives, starting with your own? Join Empower's Certified Professional Empower Coach Academy, accredited by the ICF and powered by Oregon State University. Our next cohort begins February 28th. Visit yesempower.com to reserve your spot today.
Welcome to Rewired. I'm your host, Tiffany Grimes with Empower Coaching and Training. Today, I had the privilege of sitting down with Nanor Ohanesian, who is a valuable part of and contributor to Empower Coaching and Training. She serves as an Empower coach. She serves as senior faculty, a mentor coach, student support at our CPEC Training Academy, which is our ICF accredited coach training program embedded within Oregon State University. Nanor is a professional life and leadership coach, and she believes that with awareness and empowerment and action, everyone can unlock their highest potential. She went on to talk about today how she'll never remove that quote-unquote life part of the coaching title out of what she does, because regardless of who we're focusing on, who we're serving in our coaching role, how we're coaching somebody, whether we are a professional coach or a leader, coaching staff, or a parent coaching a child, we are, when we are at our best, coaching the person, not the problem. And so really continuing to focus in on that. With a broad range of certifications and methodologies, Nanor approaches coaching holistically. She enjoys partnering with individuals and teams, assisting them to pinpoint the root causes getting in the way of their life's authentic path and deepest fulfillment. She is involved in the International Coaching Federation, the Orange County chapter. She is an affiliate of Accomplishment Coaching. Clients continue to say that her active listening, unwavering stance, and calm presence sets her apart. And it's why I wanted to talk to her today about using a coaching listening lens. So a listening lens, she goes on to talk about, is kind of our brain state as listeners, whether we're listening for a problem, we're listening to confirm a bias we might have, we're listening to decide if somebody's going the right direction or the wrong direction. These are all ways that we listen. What Nanor is going to bring to us today is how we listen through a coaching lens, how we're listening beyond a person's words and learning to listen holistically so that we are echoing back what it is that not only they are saying, but how they are being as they say it, really creating this amazing place of awareness and aha for those that we are coaching. Please help me welcome Nanor. Nanor, I am so happy to be here with you and so grateful that you could join us on the Rewired podcast today.
Thank you. I am
Yes.
happy as well and excited.
Yes, good. It's exactly what I'm feeling as well. I always love to start the Rewired podcast by just kind of getting a sense of what empowerment means to you and also what is empowering you right now.
For me, empowerment is really about, it's that fuel, right? It's the thing that helps us feel capable. It helps us feel resourced and or gives us a sense of capacity to do that next step. But it kind of, for me, it's also a shift that happens to people that gets them there sometimes. So there's this sense of like something feels impossible or overwhelming, or there's like a block to their expression, right? And then a shift happens. So it goes from I can't to I can. And that shift for me is the empowerment piece. It's like it's confidence. There's a sense of certainty. There is my mentor coach is Tijen Jenko, and she calls it like a sovereignty. So
Okay.
having that inner authority
Yeah.
to govern oneself, right? That is like empowerment for me. And I'll also add the word worthiness. So for me, these are ways of feeling empowered, I guess. And in that shift that I was talking about, it can happen in so many ways, which I think we'll talk about later. But yeah, so that's what empowerment really means for me. But currently, what feels empowering, oddly or interestingly, is this really deep sense of worthiness. So something has happened in the last few months where I've had a shift. I no longer collapse my worth with the things that I do, with the good and the bad, the right, the wrong, the I did a great job to, I didn't achieve anything, I failed, I made a mistake. They're just not linked for me anymore. So because of that, there's this sense of new empowerment that has developed within me where I don't feel extra pressure for perfectionism. That pressure to control how things show up has kind of dissipated and gone away. I still care. I want to do good work. I want to create good results. I care about integrity and stuff. But if I don't, it no longer diminishes my worth, essentially,
Oh,
you know,
it gives
and
me
I can
goosebumps
share it.
as you say that. Like it's
There,
inherent. It's inherent. Those things are
yeah,
inherent in me. I don't have to achieve anything to demonstrate it or prove it. It's already
yeah,
in me, worthiness and
yeah.
all of those things. Yeah. Yeah.
It is. There's this beautiful video that I love. I watch it often, in fact. And for a long time, I got the conceptual meaning of it. So this teacher walks into a classroom and he takes out a $20 bill and he shows it. He says, "Hey, who wants this $20 bill?" And everybody raises their hand. I want it, right? And then so he says, "Okay, well, let me take this $20 bill." And he crumbles it up into, makes it really teeny tiny. And he says, "Who wants this bill? Does anybody still want it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I still want it. I want it. I want it," right? And then he goes, "Okay." So he takes the $20 bill and he throws it on the floor and he steps on it and he smushes it. And he says, "Who wants this $20 bill now? You still want it?" They're like, "Yeah, we still want it." It's because the value, the worth of that $20 didn't shift, didn't change,
Yes.
right? So it always will be that. And that is, so at my core, who I am hasn't shifted, doesn't shift, doesn't change
God.
based on, all my stuff that I don't do or
Yes.
do.
Oh, I
So
love that visual that you just described. I was just, as you were saying it, I was like, I need to do that for my children. I need to, this is just such a
I'll send you the
great,
video too. It's a good
yeah.
one.
It really helps, I think, just that experiential learning, right? Like, oh, this makes sense to me, and now I can apply it to me or my life, or
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I was just, we just started winter break at our house, and my kids are at home, and I'm also working and trying to do things. And also, it's the holidays and wanting to have special things. And we had this like candle spiral walk at our house yesterday. And anyway, my husband was like at middle of the day, he's like, "You seem angsty, are you okay? Why don't you go for a walk? And what's going on?" And I just said exactly what you just said. I was struggling with it. I said, I'm struggling with my worthiness because I have 8 15 things that I want to do really well today, including spending quality time with my children, taking care, it's the slow time at work. I want to clean out my inbox. I also want to make the most beautiful spiral candle lit and I was like, and I'm not getting any of it done. And so I'm just wrestling with my own worthiness right now. It's just that moment of naming it, of like, I still am. I'm going to be a crumpled up $20 bill, and I'm still worthy.
Worthy. Yes. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
That's great. Well, what a great introduction. So let's kind of keep going with this little bit of who Nanor is before we dive into the coaching filter, which I'm so excited to talk with you about today. But I want to hear just a little bit about your own journey and into coaching. What brought you into coaching? You are deeply embedded within the International Coaching Federation, certification programs, of course, within Empower Coaching and Training. You're running your own business. You're doing professional development. What brought you into coaching? Kind of let us walk along your journey.
Well, so I started my coaching journey as a student. So it was a student in a personal development class, basically. I really had never heard of coaching. This was like some 15 or so years ago. And so I'm in this transformational class, and there was a distinction that was shared. And that distinction really jolted, it really rocked my view of the world, right? It it literally brought so much empowerment to me in that moment, because I got to see something that I had never seen before. And I was like, oh my God, why doesn't every single human being on this planet know about this? Everybody needs to know, right? And the distinction was really about the meaning making machine, right? Like, we as human beings, something happens, and then we put a meaning to it. We make an interpretation. And so if I'm putting that meaning, I can choose a different meaning. All of a sudden, something had opened up for me. Like, I had choice. I could choose an empowering meaning versus a disempowering one. Like, and that was my gateway. I was like,
The
I
TEP
need
cycle, right? That's the TEP cycle. Yeah.
yeah. And it was just super powerful. And that's when I started, learning about coaching. And, initially I entered the health and wellness world of coaching from that world. But I quickly realized that I was being more of a health consultant than a coach. I noticed the difference, because people would tell me, oh, this is what I want. This is how I want to be, blah, blah, blah. And I would go in and be like, okay, so this is what you should do.
Here's
I would
what you
tell
need to
them,
do.
I'd tell them, this is what you should eat. This is how much you should drink. This is all of that. And all of a sudden, a few weeks would pass, or even a few days, and then they're back to same old, same old. And so that's when I realized I really needed to see what is that thing that's getting in their way. And that's when I learned about coaching and started investigating the world of coaching, discovering that it's completely unregulated. And that didn't jive with my values of learning and education. And so I'm like, no, no, no. And so I quickly discovered ICF.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, okay, this is it. I want this to be my foundation. And so I searched for accredited schools and, did my training that way. And here we are.
Did you, because you're no longer doing health and wellness coaching.
Mm-mm.
Did you move away from that field as soon as you got coaching certification, or did you stay in the health and wellness for a while?
did. So this is my thoughts about health and wellness. It is foundational. Like, if your well-being is off, for me, two things. If your well-being and your integrity are off,
Yeah.
you cannot perform at your best. It's just a given. So I started life coaching. I've now morphed into leadership and life coaching, but I will never remove the life coaching out, because it is, you're coaching the person, the individual, right? And so, yeah, and they show up at work, they show up to leadership meetings and to everything. And so
Parenting to relationship to, yeah, all of it. Yeah.
exactly. And so for me, yeah, I shifted to life coaching, and then the coach training program that I did was clear, like you're coaching the being of the person. And so from that place, you can coach anyone on anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't even have a niche.
Right. I love that. I feel like I got a little lost in the niche world. I feel like that's kind of maybe moved on a little bit, but I agree, because I think no matter what I'm coaching somebody on, no matter what they're bringing to the table, we always get down to some core fundamental human places. Again, worthiness, core values.
Yes.
Those things it's it's like you're saying, you take those to work, you take those into relationship, you take those into parenting, and
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that is a perfect bridge, honestly, to the next question, because we're here today to talk about a coaching filter. I introduced you to our listeners and shared that we have the opportunity to work together in the Empower Coach Training Academy, an ICF accredited academy, and we teach in our very foundational courses this idea, and then we build upon it in our midway through the course training, but through this idea of coaching filter and listening through a coaching filter. And what I want to just, I guess, broaden for our listeners is that this is not just about coaches. So if you are a leader, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a parent, if you are a community member, listening through the coaching filter can be applied. So will you talk to us a little bit about what a coaching listening filter is, what it means to you, define it for us? And yeah, I guess just let's start with that. Tell us what this thing is.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think it might be helpful to even explain what a listening filter is, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, and so we all have filters, right? They're formed through our upbringing, they're formed through our culture, our conditioning, our socialization, just through our life's experiences. We have filters, and often, one of the ways I describe it, it's like wearing colorful glasses. And so what you're seeing is really distorted. So what you're really seeing is not what you're really seeing. There's a distortion because of the filter, right? And often some of these filters can show up as like biases. They can show up as our assumptions, our beliefs, even our mood, right? Our emotional state can be a filter in the moment. So the same thing I think is happening when we're listening. It's not just here, but we also have filters when we're listening, right? So we hear raw data, it goes in, and then it passes through our filter, and then we end up listening to our actual interpretations. So it's not necessarily the true meaning that the person was trying to convey. So that's what I think a filter is. So it's like a sieve, right? Things kind of get distorted, don't fully go through. And everyone has different filters, right? People have different interpretations of the same thing that they're hearing. For example, even a siren. When you hear a siren, one person might get activated. Another one will just, mosey on along. It means nothing to them, but it's because of our filters that's how they show up. So a big part of, I think, coaching filter a coaching filter is to come from neutrality. A big part of a coach's work is intentionally partnering with the client, but it's coming from a neutral place as possible. And so a lot of the ways of a coaching listening filter, a lot of the times it's about learning to notice our filters, like having awareness around them, and then trying to kind of like clear them out as much as possible so that we're not bringing it with us to the coaching conversation. At a minimum, we want to like temporarily suspend them, at least while we're coaching, right? Like put them aside. So at like more advanced levels of coaching, this looks like the coach has already cultivated neutrality. They're indifferent. They don't bring their stuff to the session, so they're not contaminating that sacred space that of the coaching world or conversation. And this neutral and this judgment freeness is what we're bringing in, right? And oftentimes, again, my mentor kind of refers to this like as hygiene, being hygienically clean, right? So kind of bringing that to, I think, to the coaching. And, and most of this really happens outside of the session, right? Like we need to do our own work. We need to clean ourselves up, if you will, so that when we come to the sessions, at least we're aware and we're fully present of them.
Yeah.
I think there's one other thing I want to mention here for like new coaches. I often describe the coach's role like being a shiny reflective surface. But if our role is to be like this shiny reflective surface, it's so that the client can really see themselves clearly and authentically, not by us putting in what we also see, right? Another analogy I like to bring again for like newer coaches is this idea of an echo. An echo, how when you speak something, it reflects back exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It doesn't add anything more and it doesn't take away anything. So if we could be an echo to our clients, that in itself, I think, would really start creating awarenesses and insights for them.
Yeah. As you were talking, and when you started, you were talking about these kind of glasses we wear, right? And it impacts what we're experiencing. I still do a lot of professional development, but I used to do this particular workshop it was early on, gosh, probably 8 years ago or so, where I would work with case managers at that point. They have different titles now, but case managers, and beginning to just build a little bit of a coaching awareness. We now, of course, do some pretty in-depth work in that, but I would have them do this exercise that they first hated me for and then really appreciated. But they'd partner up and they would have one person would describe an issue they're having, some challenge they're having. And I would have, that would be the other person didn't know what the person playing the coach, how they were listening. So they weren't allowed to say anything, any words. They could do that or that kind of thing. They could nod, they could move their eyes around, they could have hand gestures. But the first one, I would have them, their cue was that they were too busy to even hear what this person was saying. They had a lot of things to do. They were under pressure. They had 8 other people waiting to see them. And so they would listen through that lens to this person, kind of hold that presence through that lens. And then I would ask the listeners to reflect. What did that feel like? And they were like, I don't know what was happening, but it didn't feel like we were connecting. It felt like they just wanted me to hurry.
Yeah.
And then the second time I would have it be that they've worked with this person 10 times before. They know they're not going to follow through. They can't really trust what they're saying. They're not a person of their word. And so again, they would reflect that, and the people could feel
Sense it.
that.
Yeah.
And then the final time I would have them, you know, by the end, this person's like, I'm so tired of listening to my challenge. But the third time I would have the kind of case manager role listen through the lens of, you are so resilient. You have everything you need
Mm,
to manage this and to stand up to this and to hold this. And again, they couldn't say anything. And it was profound. Just the sound in the room that would happen, the length of time. People had ahas. I mean, it was
wow.
so amazing. Just
Wow.
not a word was uttered. It was just the hygiene or the space
Yeah.
that we held. And
That
it worked
energy.
every time. The energy, that
Wow.
hardwired connection, the
Yes.
mirror neurons.
Yes.
Yeah. So it really impacts.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Such a fun exercise.
What
Back
a
when we got
great
to do a bunch of
activity.
in-person trainings. Remember those? It doesn't land as well virtually, but well, so let's
Yeah.
take this idea then and go a little bit further, because my immediate thought is, well, why does this matter? Why does this matter? Why would I be doing this as a coach? Or particularly, you know, speaking to some of our other listeners who aren't coaches, whether we're leaders or consultants or case managers or, again, parents or helpers or whatever. What makes a coaching filter different from a consultation filter, or kind of the leader manager filter, or
Mhm.
even parental filter? What makes a coaching filter so powerful? How's it different from these other filters that we use?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Ready to make a real difference? Become a certified professional coach with Empower Coaching and Training. Our next CPEC cohort, accredited by the International Coaching Federation and offered in partnership with Oregon State University, starts February 28th. Spots are limited. Learn more at yesempower.com.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I think so part of it is like, depending, I think, on the hat that we're wearing, there's that intentionality that you just talked about, right? Of your filter. So if you can be intentional, what you want to be listening for, that I think would make a difference from, like, depending on your role, right? Of course, this really requires that somebody has awareness, because a lot of people don't have awareness around their filters. They go through life just listening to people and right, wrong. Yep, I agree. No, I don't. No, disagree.
Yeah.
That was good. No, that wasn't bad. I mean, that's the most filter that they have, that they're listening from sometimes, right? So when we are aware that we can actually be intentional with our filters, that's when I think that more magic kind of occurs, depending on our roles. So I think, like, for consultants, they're often listening for what's wrong so that they can solve for something, right? So they're looking for a gap and things like that. And even for leaders, like, depending on the type of leader you are and the state you're in, you know, your mental state, your biological state, your psychological state at those moments will also determine the filters that they're using, right? They could be listening for what's going well today, to, you know, some of the examples that you use, to what's it going to take to turn a profit, or what are the problems here so that we can solve for them. So all of these, I think, are filters that kind of happen unconsciously, but they determine, what we're listening for. And I think it's all dependent on the role, oftentimes. Like, even, for example, a nurse, right? And the expectation of the role, let's say. Even a nurse, like, if she's working or he's working at a school, that nurse is going to be listening from a state of compassion and care. versus an ER nurse, they're going to be listening for like life and death signals, right? So our filters are constantly changing, I think, based on our roles anyways.
Yeah.
But we kind of need to be aware of them to have some say over it, let's say. But about coaching listening filters, how they're fundamentally different, I think, from other listening filters of roles, is it's not just about the neutrality that I talked about a few minutes ago, or like that judgment-free space that we create. It's coaching listening filter. As coaches, we're using all our senses, first of all, and then we're listening to the client as a whole system. That's why for me, life coaching can't be separated from, other things. So we need to listen to all of it. And so as coaches, we're not just listening for the words that they're saying. We are listening for their emotionally charged language. We're listening for their cadence, their tone, their breathing pattern. Why did they just, right? We're listening for all of that. Their energy, their emotionality, their non-emotionality, I just wrote a book, and they just say, I just wrote a book. Something's off, so we're listening for all of these things. We're listening for hand gestures all the time. We're listening for eye movements, facial expressions, all of these things. And we're also, with our coaching listening filter, we're also listening for what's underneath the words, right? It's not just the actual words. It's there was a contradiction there, or I'm hearing conflicting values, or even competing values. So we're listening for their needs, their values, their strengths, their beliefs, their assumptions. All of these things are, coming into the coach, right? We're getting all of this. And when we're taking all this information in, now we're trying to be as neutral as possible and try to echo back to the client what is been observed, let's say, and reflect things like that back to them, and having inquiries from that place.
I just love that description. It just made me think about, you said we're trying to be this reflective coating or shiny, or where we're just echoing back. And you also said something earlier, how maybe whether we're from a consultant or a parent conversation, we're listening with some judgment, right?
Mhm.
So like, oh yeah, that's exactly right, or that conflicts with what we need to be doing, or what I think we need to be doing, and so we're guiding in these other ways. We're guiding thought and performance and identity through these little gentle and sometimes not so gentle nudges in the conversation. And so we're kind of there yelling something out, and rather than hearing an echo, we're kind of correcting, changing, taking away that. We don't need that. We don't need this mini echoes, And so from a coach's standpoint, we might not even be reflecting on what was said, but I noticed when you said that, you took a long exhale before you said it. What was the meaning of that for you? What were you experiencing?
What was happening
right?
there?
So we're not just stuck on the words. You painted that picture beautifully. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and notice when you do that, like you're totally attuned to that client, right? And just sharing just that simple noticing creates so much trust and safety. So much spaciousness now becomes available to the client, right? So that they can more fully show up.
Yeah.
I think that's
and we
like
start
a
to
big
see
difference.
our thoughts, right? You're creating those that space for me to hear my own stories, to
Yeah.
notice my own thought patterns. This is, yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And I just want to go back to what you said a minute ago about like kind of guiding and, directing, let's say, the client. The other day with the client, we came to a real belief around something. And he said to me, he said, "So you want me to change that belief now?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want you to do anything. I want you to know all we did was we shined a light on that belief now. Now you have it. Now you have access to it. What do you want to do with it?"
You get to do whatever you want
Yeah.
because you
And
see
so,
it, because
yeah.
now you see it.
And
Yeah.
so I think I haven't worn a consultant hat for a while, or even if it was a parenting hat, right? It would be, I would imagine when I would see that, it would turn into, well, you should do it this way. Because that will, then you can go further and da da da. Like,
Because then you align with what I want you to be. Speaking humbly from a parent's standpoint.
so, and I think that's one of the main beauties and differences between like a coaching filter versus other roles that
Yeah.
we play.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Ready to level up how you lead at work and at home? Empower Coaching and Training brings brain-based coaching, mindfulness tools, and real-world strategies you can share with those you serve and live with. Get started now. Visit us at yesempower.com.
Ah, so great. Yeah, and I think it speaks to not that that work is ever simple, but as a coach, I'm not invested. I don't want to use the word invested. I don't have, your decisions don't impact me, right? Like I'm
Yes.
here to hold this space for you. This is the role that we're playing. So then when we are a leader and a parent and these other roles that we're playing, it is, I think, more challenging because I am heavily invested in you meeting the outcomes, following my rules, living by my values, representing my company, whatever those things are. So it's so much
Yeah.
work for, I think, when we are not coaching, but we are rather bringing coaching into the work that we're doing. Being
Hmm.
really aware, can I really do this? Can I really objectively just echo back what is given to me? Or do I need to bring somebody else in who can help with this,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, so tell me, can you think about a moment either that you started talking about this gentleman you were just coaching? So I'm curious, either from the receiving end or from the coaching end, if you were the one holding the space, where you realized you were fully in your coaching listening filter. And I know you, so I know that you almost only coach from that coaching filter. What changed in the conversation or in the client because of that shift of noticing your lens and being very intentional with it?
I think what happens is like, so, we have, you make a reflection, you share something, you inquire about something, whatever it is. What I notice, like when I know I'm in that space, is oftentimes things slow down. There's like a silence also that happens with the client. Often there's a pause. And I know, and with this particular client, there was a long pause. And I'm very comfortable with pauses now. Before, like even 5 seconds felt too long. Now I can literally go a minute, minute and a half. The only time, because I know they're processing, right? So the only time is if I'm on the phone and I'm not 100%, are they still there?
Did we freeze? Did something?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I know in those moments, like they're out of their autopilot and now like some new awareness, some new insight is starting to form in those moments.
Yeah.
And there's it's things like the client will say something like, oh, I never thought of that before. And so it's moments like that, I think. I also know when I'm fully in my like coaching listening filter, when I'm not using a tool, right? When I'm using a tool, I'm often in my head trying to get it right to use a tool. And and it's not just the same. I just can't be fully curious and deeply present as I would if I wasn't using a tool. But I think of it like an archaeologist sometimes. They're really curious, they're gentle, they use, those fine brushes sometimes. They're not like digging like this, right? So and they're trying to unearth a hidden treasure, right? And so I think that's what's happening with the coaching filters. Like we're trying to find those treasures of the clients, their values, their strengths, their wisdom, and also even, the things that are getting in their way, their self-sabotaging ways, and even some of those really, really, really hidden truths that they've never been able to speak anywhere else. So for me, that's kind of what it's like. It's a dance, it's a partnership, so.
Yeah. I was just sitting here listening to you thinking, what a gift you are to the coaching world, Nanor.
Oh, thank you.
Just the way you
Thank
light
you.
up as you talk about it and the way you describe it and this unearthing of treasures. And
I feel like that.
yeah, I can tell. It absolutely comes through. It's lovely. It's not just about
Thank
finding what's
you.
broken to fix it, right? It's like this whole being, like you're describing. And what a gift. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you took whatever class you took and you followed your curiosity.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I love to talk about the neuroscience of things. That is,
Hmm.
I always say neuroscience is my love language. It's what brought me to coaching. It's what creates my ahas. And so I always love to ask about this. So from your experience in teaching, specifically with Empower and our Coach Training Academy, what's happening in the brain when a coach activates this different listening filter? And how does this support emotional regulation and curiosity and the client's access to insight?
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So, well, you're already hearing how like the coaching filter, listening filter is very different from other listening filters, right? And people don't get to experience that in everyday relationships. So I think that in itself, it's so yes, we're being judgment free, we're being very holistic, we're, multi-sensory listening, we're very present, all of that stuff. But but this the difference that we create is, I think, that safety, right? So when that safety is there, and because people haven't been listened to this way, their guards are down. They start to breathe a little differently, I think. They can start being more fully themselves, show up more authentically. And sometimes, they just need that space to unload whatever it is. And with that, I think, so basically it's with that safety that their defenses go down. And I think, I'm not very neuroscience based, but I think what happens in those situations is the amygdala kind of quiets down, and the more creative side of the person's brain psyche kind of starts activating. And from that place, I think you get to start to create things that you never thought of before. You start dreaming about stuff that you've put on the shelf for a long time. And so that's kind of the neuroscience part that I know about it.
Yeah. That's what I was imagining as you were talking about it. It's like this threat filter, our amygdala. We've all been in conversations where we feel suddenly, oh my God, I said too much, right? That
Yeah.
fear piece. I think Brene Brown calls it a vulnerability hangover when, the next day you're like, oh, I said that. I can't believe I shared that. What are they going to think about me now? Or we're in conversations where somebody asks, what do you think? And you go, I can't really tell them what I think because it would be unsafe for my job or my financial,
Yeah.
viability or whatever it is. And so holding that space really allows our threat detector to go, this is safe.
Yeah.
And if this is safe, then I get to come up into my prefrontal cortex and
Mm,
get curious and practice emotional regulation and
yes.
awareness, self-awareness, which is what you're ultimately inviting me into in a coaching
Yeah.
session, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the ultimate win. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that
So
nervous
it
system
all
regulation.
sounds like what we should be doing all of the time. So what gets in the way? What are some of the common things like I'm guessing habits and pressure and internal narratives and well-trained amygdala that pull us out of a coaching listening filter and back into fixing, advising, or rescuing?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So from the coaching world, I would say one of the most, and being a coach trainer as well, one of the first things that we see that gets in the way is this seduction of expertise, right?
Yes. You know what
When
you
it
should do. You know what you should do.
exactly, yep, yep. Have you considered? So when you hear yourself saying that, have you considered, right? Like that's a signal that you are getting out of coach mode. So it's really like, I know it's very well intentioned, but when there's a topic that the client is presenting and you are very versed in it or familiar in it, you want to try and suspend that as much as possible. But that definitely gets in the way because you're going to start giving them answers now versus facilitating their own insights. Similarly, I would say, like, another thing I've heard a lot clients do is they'll say, well, what do you think I should do?
Yes.
Right. And so that's a trap for a coach. So don't
Yes.
fall for that one. That's another way that I think, we can get stuck here or not perform in the coaching listening filter. Another common breakdown might be, again, I think I was sharing it before, like when I'm following a formula or a tool, and then that tool doesn't follow the conversation that we're in now. And then now I'm like, now what do I do?
What do I do? Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of takes us out. We get lost. And then also, I want to say, like, another thing is like internal distractions. The coach might get preoccupied, like they might get rushed, or they might be dysregulated to even show up to the session, right? That will get, so now we get into our head versus like being out here with the client. Let's see what else. I think another one is what I just talked about is silence. Some coaches, when there's silence, they just want to fill the space. And so they start talking. But no, that's where like pure magic kind of happens. So yeah, I really think it's doing again some of your work outside of the session so that you really show up regulated, give yourself an opportunity to be present, or else these are different ways that, we'll get out of it.
Yeah. So, can you share with us one or two practices that you would recommend or that you utilize that can help us shift into that listening filter. And again, for our listeners, you don't have to be a professional coach to be able to use these. It's anytime you want to activate real active listening without the influence of yourself guiding trying to drive an outcome. So what are one or two things that you would recommend to help shift into that listening filter, that coaching listening filter?
Yes, I think so. So some of it is done outside of the session, right? Like I said, it's a little bit of it is that self-care, the clearing practices, so that you have your biases and assumptions under wraps, if you will.
Yeah.
And really doing your own personal development work. It is vital as coaches that we do that so that we can show up more as a shiny reflective surface. So that could be, your own workshops, you're hiring your own coach, so that all of these things start getting cleared up. Again, it's that hygiene part. It's also building awareness around your judgments. A lot of that is going to make a difference. I think in the moment, like while you're in the session, some of the things is almost doing a mental reset. We talked a little bit about hats. It's in the moment, be like, okay, what hat do I want to wear now? Right. So when so for me, like one of the hats I love to wear, I said the archaeologist as an archetypal hat, but then there's also the curious learner. Or what would I be like right now if I had that beginner's mindset hat? So all of these things, I think in the moment can help activate, let's say, those coaching filters. There's also something like our resetting our own listening filters. So what am I listening for here?
Yeah.
Right? To just pause for a second and internally ask yourself, what is the client really trying to express right now? That in itself, I think, will bring you back to the present and start processing your filter from a more coaching lens, right? So things like that. And then finally, even somatically, I would say like using your body, just movement sometimes to presence yourself, or even just a breath can really presence you to listen from a different place.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love all of those. I know one of the ones that I will notice is, what am I nodding to in a
Oh,
session?
I
If
love that.
it's visual, what am I, because I'm reinforcing something. They've said something that I think is
Yeah.
right.
Oh, I love
Right? So
that.
trying to stop my nodding and all of my oh yes, oh good, those comments, because again, I'm guiding. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I love that. Great observation. Great awareness, Tiffany.
Right?
I love that one. I have a new one now.
Well, I love these tools. So great. Is there one that you would leave us with as we start to close out our session today? Is there one that you practice that you love that you would leave us with in terms of, maybe not in the moment, but before a difficult conversation, before a coaching session that we could do?
Yeah. Yes. So for the longest time, I used something that I practiced something, let's say, that really, really strengthened my coaching listening filter. And what it was is, and I learned this in my coach training program. And what it was is, so I'm a note taker during my sessions. I always have a piece of paper. And on the left-hand column, I will write before each session. I don't do it as much now, but I used to. I used to write, what is the core belief, story, or the thought pattern that might be in the way of having what they want? So I
You would write
be,
that question or you would answer it for yourself?
I would write it so that
Okay.
I'm constantly being reminded that when the client is speaking to me, that I'm listening from this place. And when I do that, I think, so obviously my coaching, listening, that filter has strengthened over time because of that. But what it really strengthened too is the difference between transactional to transformational coaching, right? Instead of being on the surface, working on the strategies, what is there to fix, what action steps the client can take, how can we fix this? Transformational is going to the root, right? It's kind of like, you love planting, right? It's kind of like there are weeds and you go and you you trim the weeds. So, but guess what? They're going to come back up. Right. So for me, cutting the weeds is like transactional coaching. We fixed it.
We got a good plan in place that'll not stick.
Exactly. Exactly. But when you go to the root and remove that, now there's space for something else, for something new to develop, right? And so for me, that's kind of how it shows up. So I guess my sort of advice is kind of to listen for the context of what the client is sharing versus the content that
Really great. Really great. I'd heard somebody say it the other day that we're moving from listening to the story to listening for the systems, right? It's like same idea of like going beyond just what's being said, but the systems in play that manage the event. And I really like that.
I think from the root, from the same root thing is what is at the root that's informing the client to behave and act in the ways that they are and are not acting and behaving.
Yeah.
So what's at that root, that systemic part?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And learn, I think one of, what I'm walking away with today from this is just the reminder that if we're listening to this and we go, I don't know how to do that. Like, this is great, but I don't know how to do that. We learned it. You just described, you wrote it down. You would give yourself these, the training and the time to develop the skill. It really is learned because very few of us actually grow up experiencing that. So it's not a model that we have or a file that we can go back and dig into. It's really hearing something like this and going, wow, that sounds amazing. Now, how do I develop that skill? Right. Just like we would hear a guitar playing and go, that's really beautiful. We pick up a guitar and try to strum it and make it sound like it. And it doesn't. It's the same with listening. It really is learned and trained and loving listening to hear you say all of this training and these years of professional development that you've done, and to hear you say, and my mentor, right? It's still developing. It's still learning and growing.
Lifelong learner here.
Yeah, you are. You absolutely are.
Yeah.
Well, Nanor, thank you again, just for what you bring into the world. And also thank you for the relationship that we get to have and to do this work together. And thank you for your time today. So amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to get to share what birthed inside of me. So thank you so much for this, for it. Yeah.
Pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to Rewired, where neuroscience meets real life change. If you enjoyed today's conversation, I'd be so grateful if you take a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your feedback helps people discover the tools, insights, and inspirations they need to create lasting change. While you're leaving that 5-star review, please also subscribe and share an episode with a friend. Remember, the way you think shapes the way you live. Every intentional thought, every mindful choice rewires your brain and your life. So go live intentionally, live thoughtfully, and never underestimate the power of your own mind to transform your world. Until next time, this is Tiffany with Empower Coaching and Training. Stay curious, stay empowered, and keep rewiring for real change.
Every family has challenges, and every parent deserves support. At Empower Coaching and Training, youth and parenting coach Jasmine Chandler helps parents and young people find clarity, connection, and practical tools that make a difference. Visit yesempower.com to connect with Jasmine and explore our team of incredible coaches today.